I'm the Digital Development Advisor for USAID. Basically, in that role, I get to see a lot of different innovators like those that are sitting in this room. I guess today my big thought is just what we can be thinking about going forward. In the opening plenary, I think there were some good seeds planted, specifically that the communities that we are talking about are constantly changing. People are moving, people have access to devices, they increasingly have access to higher degrees of connectivity. So there's someone in the community who knows something about technology. And so when we're talking about data literacy or community-driven models, even for AI, I think on our side, that is sitting in a room in a city, speaking in English, we need to update our models of what the training even looks like when we're talking about data literacy and so on. Our models are very much focused on one-to-one user interactions. Our assumption is there's one user, one device, one product, and increasingly we see in rural areas that's not true. Similarly with something like data literacy, people on the ground are making their own choices. We just heard people voluntarily are giving their information away just so they can get, make a transaction or something. There's intermediaries in the network. So on our side, one, how do we update our models for data literacy, even the content that we're teaching, even the topics that we're talking about to be relevant?
I'm Siddhartha. I'm the Directing Counsel General of Commons Collective. Before that, I was the Secretary of the Free Software Movement of India. So majorly my work has been around access, digital rights, around digital divide. Majorly, if you ask one point, what do we do in Commons Collective? We put these antennas, this we call using the Freedom Box, in villages in India. And when this Freedom Box is implemented in a village, what happens is something that I would like to talk about, and how that itself evolves into a community network, and how this community network is different from the otherwise digital access which is provided by the telecoms. Why this is more important than that kind of an access is something that I would be covering. We also campaign, or rather emphasize on the necessity of a community network to be in a federated model. It should be net neutral, more importantly. In this kind of a model, what happens is your digital colonialism can be resisted. Without the resistance of digital colonialism, we are entering into a place where we call, as Aldous Huxley has written this book called as The Brave New World. People expected George Orwell's 1984 to come. That didn't happen. Something else is happening. This is the Brave New World of Aldous Huxley, where all of us have voluntarily become the subjects of authoritarianism, or in general the digital colonialism. So to resist that, to come back and claim ours, that is the network. Community network is one model that needs to be seriously pursued, not by one organization, but many, many organizations together. Back in 2012, 2013, we had one major slogan that was there, which we called as bandwidth is our birthright. Today, it's no more that. By default, we have access to people, to networks. But what is happening to this network, how this network is mining us, mining the data from us, is something that we really need to look into. And how do we build from there is what I'm interested to share and take it forward.
So I teach political science to the students of computer science and artificial intelligence. And I thought, what would be a good addition that I can make to this panel to place all these keywords. So there are like 4 keywords: community building, citizens' rights, data literacy, AI awareness. So I thought, let's put all of these keywords into the local context that are missing from global kind of discussions that are going on, global governance frameworks. And so that, as a community, we can set the agenda right, like what do we want to actually do. So what are these local contexts that we need to highlight here? So first, that we should be forgetting that access to internet has, to the large population of India, has come via phones and not via computers, unlike the advanced society. So there's no training that happened with the computers, like virus, antivirus, and the other stuff, that never happened. It reached to people's hand via phones. Then we know that there are lower literacy levels, and there are even lower digital literacy level, how people, kind of interact with these digital technologies. And one more thing, that context is very important, is that we have a very large digital public infrastructure. We have already given our biometrics and the other sensitive data for the public service delivery. So within that context, we have to see this whole debate into two specific dimensions. That's what I want to propose in the panel. First is, what is the value proposition that is being pushed to us by the global actors towards the data literacy and artificial intelligence? How we need to highlight that excitement and anxieties both are different in the different communities. Specifically, if you're based in the advanced democracies and the developing society. So there's a difference between how excitement and the anxieties work, and that need to be located. And like, for example, I want to talk about the digital divide. So you read this literature, let's say in Europe. So when they are talking about digital divide, they are talking about speed of internet, how, what kind of infrastructure do you have, how confident you are while engaging with new media technologies, whereas the focus immediately shifts on literacy when it comes to digital divide discussions here, because internet so far has been a largely written medium. So that is one problem. So when we talk about AI awareness, two things I think I will end with that is, first, that we need to demystify this whole idea of AI amongst our population, because it's seen as very opaque or very technical. We tend to forget certain things. One thing is that there is a physical infrastructure of AI. There are data centers, that creates harm to your environmental rights. Like the studies have come out which say that for every 50 prompts on ChatGPT, probably, or some other model, you are using 100 ml of fresh water, like, in order to generate that. So those discussions are missing in the developing societies that need to be highlighted. And another thing that needs to be trained, like people are supposed to be informed and aware about, is the algorithmic decision making, that your loan applications are now being denied by like AI, your college applications, the ads that are being shown to you. So how it impacts your other citizens' rights. So that is very important to highlight in this context.
A very good afternoon. My name is Shrikant, and I'm the CEO for Task. But before I got headhunted for this profile, I used to be CEO of NASCOM Foundation. And that's where we started the digital literacy movement in India. We used to run something called as the National Digital Literacy Mission, NDLM, which we gave to the Ministry of Education and Information Technology, Electronics and Information Technology, METI. And then we co-created, myself, Osama, Vardarajan, and Varda was there, and all of us sat down together and said what it should be. And of course, we have a couple of academicians also there who wanted the digital literacy to be tested by a 3 hours written question paper, right? So that was where we started. And today, when we talk about digital literacy, I'll take just 2 quick examples to help you understand that. There was this lady, a 35, 40 years old slum dweller in the slums of Yamunanagar, Pune. Right? I don't know if anyone is from Pune over here, but yes. And she did this program of 20 hours, which was called as the PMG Disha or Disha, the Digital Saksharta Abhiyan. And she used to be a Bhel Puri seller. You know the first thing what she did after doing this program? And that's the power of digital literacy. She created a WhatsApp group of all her customers, right? We are busy saying good morning, good evening, and all these, right? She created a WhatsApp group of all her customers. So we said, wow, this is fantastic. We should go and meet her. We met her, and we were shocked even further. She said, and sorry, I'm speaking in Hindi for a minute. She said, "Sab har koi bhelpuri nahi khata. Every day you can't have this fast food snacks, which is there called bhelpuri. People want vada pav, people want other things. And all these hand carts are standing next to me. Friends, She wanted to become the Uber or Ola or street food in the slums of Pune. Third class dropout, 35, 40 years old, right? And she had worked out the logistics also. 12 o'clock, my son comes back from the school. By 3 o'clock, he's done with the homework. Till 4 o'clock, I'll accept orders. 5 o'clock, using Google Map, he will go and deliver. Can you believe it? What technology? WhatsApp and Google Maps. Another example, how digital literacy, we spoke about digital divide in the morning, right? But the facts remain facts. There was this domestic help in the city of Calcutta, working with a family for over 15 years, absolutely nondescript, non-recognized by anyone. She did this digital literacy program. And mind you, I'm talking about someone who can't even write or in her own language. She could not write in Bengali. She did this program. Facebook interested her a lot. So all she used to do was browse and sometimes give out the like symbol and sometimes, clap or do all these things. While browsing, she came across, she got the center head to create a Facebook account for her. She went and liked the photo of the birthday of the grandchild of that family. Next day onward, she has gone on record to the press saying, my life changed. Everyone started calling me Baudi, Didi, and everyone else in the house, right? So she became an equal with them because she could use technology. We talk about literacy. Do you realize that today a mobile device, you don't need to write anything. You can speak to it and it speaks back, right? And that is digital literacy for you. That's how things got changed in rural India. In Delhi, we had tire puncture repair shops where you would go leave your tire over there, and he would send you a WhatsApp photo saying that this is where the puncture was. I will repair it and send it back to you. It's how you use technology. What I'm trying to say is that during my day and age, and of course I used to teach AI also, but I'll be revealing my age, but I'm going to do it still. 92, 93, I used to teach AI and something called as expert systems, right? In those days, we used to capture the explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge of experts, right? Today, your explicit knowledge are rules of AI systems, and your tacit knowledge is nothing but the data sets through which you are trying to draw out some inference, right? In our day and age also, there used to be a thing called as GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, gold in, gold out, right? So nothing has changed over there. Till the time the data is correct, till the time the intention of people creating the AI systems is correct, right? AI is just a tool, right? We'll continue to discuss later. I'll pause now.
Okay, thank you. Fascinating hearing all these comments from my fellow panelists. I want to follow up on a few of those later with some of you if we get the chance. So my name's David Dawson. I'm the Senior Communications Coordinator at the APNIC Foundation. To give you a bit of background about where I'm coming from, so I spent about 10 years as a technology journalist, mainly working out of Beijing, covering a lot of how their startup sector and their tech hubs developed and sort of grew from scratch. And then when I moved back to Australia, I kind of moved into an advisory role with the Australian government and worked on a lot of tech adoption kind of strategies and that kind of work. And one of the documents I worked on was Australia's Artificial Intelligence Ethics Framework. And since then, I've moved on to the work I do now with the APNIC Foundation. So we're one of the supporters of this event. We support digital development throughout the entire Asia Pacific. It's a huge area with vast differences between the different economies that are operating here. And it's a huge mandate, the kind of work that we're doing, but a lot of it revolves around that data literacy piece, because that's where so much of this begins from. If the people of these communities don't have that kind of digital awareness, that data literacy, then they can't really engage in this entire world of development, which is transforming the globe. So that's where it all begins from. So that's where we put a lot of our emphasis as well. So we've supported various data literacy projects in Myanmar, some of them here in India as well, and throughout the Pacific. And the conditions in all of these places, as I mentioned, they're so different, and so that means that there's vastly different projects and strategies involved in all of those. So I'm happy to discuss some of those today, but I'm also hoping to hear from you and what your experiences with data literacy here are, and how you want to go about improving that in the community here. So thank you.
Superb. So, thanks. That's a really good segue, because that's going to be my next question. We've heard some really interesting approaches, but I want to make it a little difficult. If you had to think about, and the digital divide is big, the data literacy, we have multiple opportunities. Which is that one top priority that you think we should go for, and each panelist can have a different one? And what's the solution for it? So I'm asking for the biggest problem, and what do you think is the best solution going forward for it? And anybody can go first. I don't want to keep it in the same sequence, gets boring. But please grab the mic, or I can throw the mic or something. Go for it.
One solution that comes to my mind is the problem that you're saying is when AI is limited to cloud access. And anybody who has access to cloud, the way the educated, the urban audience have, the same is not the case with the people in the rural areas. So for them, how do we give AI access is the first question. Of course, language barrier is one point which can be resolved, and there are many organizations working on that. But beyond that, how do we make people or harness AI is one important question which I feel is important. And data literacy automatically comes with that, where an attempt to resolve AI also resolves data literacy for the sense they become cognizant of the point how data is important for their any daily decisions that is part of their ecosystem. So that's how I see how do we take AI to the people is one important question. More importantly, for that, the solution that I see, which we are looking to work on, is the same community networks that we are putting in villages are an extraordinary place or a platform to have this decentralized AI or a distributed AI put up in these villages. And that's how people would also understand the kind of problems that they are facing, and how those problems, how can AI solve those problems? Because all the data that is coming up from outside need not necessarily be the same data that is required for them. And when the data is sourced from there, and people are also harnessing AI potential from that community network, that's how it works better. That's what we are looking at more importantly.
Okay, so I mean, there are several challenges, as which you said, that talk about one. So probably I would want to talk about the biases in the data sets in the AI development and deployment, and how it affects the rural population specifically. So we know that there are temporal biases, there are sampling biases, there are prejudices biases, all of that emerges. But what happens, let's say there's an AI technology that's being built for healthcare, just to solve a problem in the healthcare. Now, where is this training happening? Where is this data being collected? You see that most of these, advanced hospitals and spaces where advanced medical sciences is then practice. So what kind of data is being collected, and then the solutions that are being developed using those data, where are they being deployed? So the data sets, let's say from the underprivileged populations or the marginalized areas, they go missing. Another reason, as I said, that the internet to access has come later. So most of these AI development is happening on the born digital data sets. So the early data sets have not been digitized for that sense. So who got access to internet first, their data sets becomes available, accessible for the AI training, and then the solutions are deployed everywhere. So that creates a lot of challenges when you start applying it. Several experiments that happened, they have highlighted severe prejudices like in the predictive policing, use of facial recognition technologies and all of that. So in the RTIs that have been found, that how it's been used and how it becomes discriminatory to the communities which are already marginalized. So that needs to be seen, that how what is being used and what is being deployed in the international context also, like if the solutions are being built in the tech advanced countries and they are deployed, and within the country also where these data sets are coming from, what are the biases and how do we kind of address it. And also when it comes to data literacy or digital literacy, digital divide, one more thing that we have to see, that our focus is mostly on the infrastructure and knowledge, that do you have access to an infrastructure like a device, or do you have access to internet, like and how much, if you can afford or not. But I think in our societies we also need to start talking about as a community in terms of confidence deficit. So even if you have infrastructure and the devices, how your socio-economic identity plays a role in deciding how much confidence you have in order to engage with them. So that that kind of discussion has to begin in the community networks. Yeah.
Thanks. I think problem and solution is it. So the problem, I think, is a lot of noise. Again, I'll come back to my sort of thesis that we are sitting in a city, we're hearing a lot of the hype versus reality about AI. And I guess I would challenge all the folks working in community networks or the young people who want to work in community networks. How do we learn to listen, right? AI is fundamentally an information sorting tool. So if I have a lot of need for information, I need to know where in T-Hub is this session happening, then I care about AI. If I don't have that question, then what do I want it for? So that's question one. And then similarly on the literacy side, again, a lot of folks, people putting up the Freedom Box know something about networks. So what if they told their friends? So what does the community already know? And so if anything, we have to understand where are users coming from. So in a product world, we would do more of the UX, right? We would have our focus groups, we would do all that stuff. I don't think we extend that same courtesy to some of the communities. That where are you right now? What information is useful, right? On the AI piece, on the data piece, and so on. So I would say, at least from the grant making perspective, maybe the problem is noise and the solution is listening a little better before we start designing, or at least pushing for certain programs. And again, the big one that I care about a lot right now is mediated access versus individual access. So again, in a city, we're flipping out our own phones on our own account. In a village, it's not like that. There's 6 people sitting on a stoop or whatever, and then they're sharing a phone, So now even the AI that is predicting my ads, I mean, it's confused. Like, oh, this guy wants shoes, but he also cares about, whatever, millets. So who is this person? So I think we also have to understand, like, how do we do that a little better? Design our products a little better, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, David, please go ahead.
Okay, so there's a concept, I'm going to jump through a few different ideas here, but basically coming down to balance between some competing priorities. Now, I'm going to talk about both connectivity and then move into artificial intelligence as well. So one of the things that we see a lot when we're trying to establish connectivity in different communities through projects that we support at the foundation is how do they become sustainable? How do they set up that sustainable connectivity? Now, a lot of this comes down to, what kind of financial model are they going to use? So then one of the first questions you've got to ask yourself is, where do we strike that balance between empowering them with that connectivity versus kind of that exploitation kind of thing? Because a lot of these communities, they aren't necessarily going to be subscribing to some kind of regular payment model that other places can, especially when we're talking about remote communities without much economic capacity there. So that's one of the early questions. And of course, one of the answers here is kind of that data literacy, so people can be aware of what's involved, what kind of data they're giving up. And, often they're perfectly happy to watch some ads or things like that to get that connectivity. So it is about, where is that line that they're comfortable with in these communities? Now that's for connectivity. But then we see the same kind of issues and balance come up when we move across to that area of AI as well. At what level are people comfortable with the trade-offs involved here with that kind of balance? Now, the only people who can really make that decision for themselves are people with that data literacy. So we get these kind of issues all kind of meeting at that intersection, and it comes down to how are we ensuring that these kinds of AI and connectivity things on that kind of small grassroots scale, how are we ensuring that they are empowering these people, and how are we ensuring that they have the data literacy to be able to make that decision for themselves?
Great. With so much experience.
No, I think if we change our human mindsets, everything will get solved, right? Because if you see, when we say that the women are being excluded, and that's a typical model that you said, right? The phone, and I still remember when digital literacy started in a family in Mewar that I'd visited, morning 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock, the phone used to be the patriarch of the house. Then it used to go to the women of the house till 12 noon. Then the children of the house, and then evening again it used to come back. Of course, for AI it becomes a challenge, but then at least everyone has access. Today the point which is there is, I think it's all about data exclusion, which is a problem. As part of data literacy, what is the data that is getting excluded? That also people need to know. And that is where the basic problem lies. If you exclude some data, and I don't know how many of you know, but a couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago or something, banks were the first people to use bots, etc., because it was bringing down the cost of transaction for them, right? It was a business proposition for them. But the database that they used to do for loan processing, typically if you go to a bank, it is 80% male members who used to go. If you've got a good background, etc., you would be given a loan. When a woman startup applied for a loan, it was rejected. And we went to the root cause. It was because the data set itself, again, the principles of garbage in, garbage out, right? So how good are our data sets? If we are using data sets which are themselves having biases, then of course, AI, we in IT field always use jazzy words. So hallucinations start happening, right? If you don't get the right answer, and I don't know, all of you have got, let's say, WhatsApp over here? Yes? Okay, just take out your phones, please.
Let's do a bit of a workshop quickly.
Yeah. Phones out. Go to WhatsApp. WhatsApp has got this new blue dot on the top right, where you can ask it a question. Ask WhatsApp a question. My name is Jane. Should I become a nurse or a doctor? Answer in one word. Can we do that?
Let's see if the first answer gets a chocolate from sir.
Sure. Yes. Anyone? Nurse. Right? That's the bias for you right there itself. Okay? Now, go there itself and type another thing. Show me a picture of a doctor. Can you do that? What's it showing you? There you go. How many have got women? Good. So that's because of your browsing history, it has given you women.
Feminist browsing history there, right?
Right? Imagine this watch that I'm wearing, right? It is supposed to be checking my BP, it is supposed to be doing my ECG, etc. But imagine the kind of information that is going out to someone else, which I'm absolutely unaware of. 15 lakhs records of aims got compromised, right? Every VIP in India today can be targeted. You know who has got insulin problems, diabetes, etc., etc. Now, why these things happen? Let me ask another question, right? How many of you have shared your Gmail password with your friends? Can I see your show of hands? Look, I also have done that, so I'm raising my hand.
Okay, sir, you should ask girlfriend or boyfriend, then more hands will go up.
Sure. Right? So that's typically what it is. We ourselves are giving our data voluntarily to people. How many of you got Truecaller on your phone? 80%, right? Do you know Truecaller will make a copy of your entire records before they give access to you? All of us blindly do things. End user, EULA. Have you ever read that? No. We just accept it. And that is where it is. We ourselves are ignorant of what data we are giving to them. And how they will use it is a different question altogether. At least in my day and age, there used to be forward engineering, reverse engineering mechanisms, and it was fuzzy logic only. But today, in that black box called the GPU H100s, or now NVIDIA recently, and we had gone as part of the government of Telangana delegation over there, where Mukesh Bhai and Jason of NVIDIA signed up that partnership, right? The Blackwell box, no one knows how the logic is working inside it. We talk about AI and ML. I come from a standpoint that pets and machines can be trained. They can't learn on their own. They can create inferences, right? Because of the data you are providing it. The data might be accurate, might not be accurate, and that's where it is. So I think what is getting excluded, that's one major problem, and we just spoke about the solutions also, right? And second thing is, what is the logic behind it, the algorithms that are there? And I don't think, see, very frankly, if you look at it, people are worried about AI. Not worried about AI, you should use it as just a tool, like a calculator, right? And that's what it should be used for. It should be used for providing you with the data, the right data, accurate, speed of processing, value for it, and of course, you should be able to understand that data. So data literacy plays a very key part. When the data comes to you, what do you make out of it? Decades ago, I had gone to ONGC. At that time, ONGC had the new IBM 360, 370 computers, and I'm talking about decades ago. And Colonel Wahi used to be the CMD of ONGC. And like a prized possession, he took me to that room and said, Mr. Sinha, we have got this thing, and this is fantastic. I was running a training program for their officers at that time. And he wanted to showcase that, and I said, what does it do? He said, whatever data was earlier there on sheets is now inside the computer. And I said, what next? He said, what do you mean? I have got all the data now. Data will not make any sense unless until you are able to convert it into information, and from information take right decisions. So algorithm and data literacy play a key part over there. So those are the solutions also. Please, go ahead.
Sorry, can I just, a little follow-up there. Brilliant example he gave, by the way, with WhatsApp and asking about a nurse. I love that example. It's a great one. And these topics were ones that came up when we worked on that AI ethics framework in Australia a lot. And just one concept I want to put out there for all of you to think about is that the data can be relatively accurate, but still be atrociously biased. That accuracy, just because it's accurate, doesn't necessarily mean it's okay. So even if there were more male doctors, for example, that doesn't make it okay that that's the image that they show for people. So this becomes a very complex, often very political issue quite quickly, because you get a lot of people who kind of think, well, if it's accurate, then it's fine. No, so that's one of the first things you need to grapple with. So that's something you need to take off kind of that mathematically minded data hat sometimes and put on kind of more of a humanist hat when you start thinking about how these algorithms function. So yeah, thank you for that example. That's a great one.
Just one more thing which I'd like to add, talking about AI. 7 years ago, I'd gone to a friend's place in Bangalore and he had invited me over for dinner. So he was busy with me, the wife was busy cooking the food, and the son in the 7th grade had to do the homework. And it was about Tenali Rama. So what this kid did was go to Alexa and said, Alexa, tell me about Tenali Rama. And as Alexa started narrating, he started writing. Nowadays, professors are going to AI, ChatGPT especially, or Llama, Gemini, you name it, and they say, okay, I want to create a question of 10 marks on thermodynamics. Give me that question. The students go over there and say, tell me the question that can come, right? Point is, today also if you go to ChatGPT, please by all means go there. Ask ChatGPT to give you 3 answers and use human intelligence to decide which one is the correct one, right? So there is no replacement of human intelligence. AI is nothing but what you are providing it as of today. The reason why it has changed over the years to what it is now is thanks to the compute power. It's the chip which is making the difference, right? And of course, today with 5G coming in, and moving towards 6G, instead of geostationary satellites, we are talking about low object LEO satellites, etc. I think penetration of internet has to reach everywhere. If I look at Telangana, though it's the youngest state, it's a state which is in a hurry to do things. And here, we didn't depend upon the BharatNet per se, but we have our own T-Fiber, which is a ring network. And what we did was something brilliant. The biggest problem is right of access, right? When you're crossing a forest or a river or something. So 3 things got put together: electricity, fiber, and water through the same pipe itself. So solutions are there. You have to come to think out of box, and definitely it should be focused towards inclusion, not exclusion.
Just a minute, Professor. As Professor speaks, I would love to, you've got lots of data from the panel, but now let's make it into some knowledge and some questions. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Professor, go ahead, and the mic can go there.
Please call me Aakansha, since professor sounds very heavy. So yeah, just to carry forward what you were saying, and we had this in-house urgent faculty brainstorming session sometime last year called Research and Teaching in the Times of ChatGPT, because that is happening, and where we try to locate the fundamental question that, for example, why did we start taking exams, or why did we, kind of start giving assignments to the students, and we realized that it was basically to develop critical thinking capabilities, that whatever is being told to you, you should be immediately able to think about what's not being told to you, like what's hidden in this information, or what is biased in this information. And that is how, these capabilities you will develop through assignments, team projects, and all of that, which definitely becomes a challenge. As of now, professors are in a capacity to, fool these models, but I'm sure these models will go ahead and advance. We now frame assignments in a way in which we know that, that's not going to work. But yeah, we have to see in a scenario where these models become more and more advanced as and when we proceed. But coming back to what you were talking about, like data literacy, and how do we train people about how do you give their data. I think one thing that we can borrow is what's been proposed in GDPR is to let you know who's collecting your data, for what purpose it's being collected, for how long it will be capped, where it will be transferred. even if you're not able to make sense of it. So that's a problem here. Like, even if you give this information to the user, are they able to make sense of it and take informative decisions? And also, like, right to erasure, that's they were talking about, that because your digital footprint stays forever, right? So how do you get yourself deleted from these digital networks? So that's a challenge, because as of now, like, there was recently a report, we don't know if it's true or fake, but the media was reporting where the users were showing that if you have an iOS phone, the Uber shows you more price. And if you have an Android phone, at the same time, same location showing lower price. If you have a low battery in your phone, it's showing you surge price. If it knows that you have to reach a movie at a specific time because you have booked, so we don't know, like, the companies have not rejected it, but the several civil society organizations have been highlighting it. So we as a user are supposed to be told that, this is how our information can be used in a simple, clear, coherent manner, like not too complicated 5 pages terms and condition that we can't understand. Yeah.
So 2 questions, gentlemen here in the lady up there. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. So my question is that this cannot be kind of just left unaddressed, right? We need regulation and we need laws. So my question is, how well placed is India's new data protection law to address these concerns?
Yeah. Hello, sir. This is Abhishek, communication student of University of Hyderabad. So, sir, my question is, I think when India is suffering from digital arrest or digital rape, I think AI is working like a positive catalyst for increasing this. And also, I want to know, so how do we think we should work on digital, digital hygiene? So, how do you address this problem, digital hygiene in India? Yeah, it's my question.
Hello, sir. I am a college student. My name is Nusrat. I am having a question like, does AI have a limited memory or unlimited?
All right, panel. So, Mike is here. You have a question on regulation, DPDPA?
Yeah, that I can answer because I teach that. So DPDP Act, a lot of answers we're still seeking because the rules are not out yet. Like, we passed the act, we are still waiting for the rules, how it will be implemented, and what is the timeline, like when does it actually start? We don't know it yet. But to few things that civil society organizations have been highlighting that might become a challenge and might need fixing is one, that there's no distinction between sensitive data and non-sensitive data, whereas like your financial data, healthcare data, like all these kind of, like for example your sexual orientation data, they are usually have been dealt in a sensitive data category in other laws of the other countries. So that distinction is missing. Another very interesting part is the duties of data subjects, data principles, so which is very unique. Like, we never had this duty-based frameworks in the laws. So we are supposed to follow certain duties, and what happens if we don't do it, we are yet to know. So that will be again clear in the rules as and when they are released. So coming back to your question, are we, is the act solid enough to kind of address these things? The real answer is we don't know, but we know that what kind of challenges that might emerge out of it. Yeah.
You want to answer? Yeah.
So just to add one point to that, where we started on data privacy is, per se, India did not have a Data Privacy Act or a data privacy part of a constitution. So the only way we could protect at the time was through right to life. Right to life was how your privacy was protected. And from there, if not the regulation point of view, the only thing that we can do to protect people's data is to have data in their hands, and more importantly, the network in their hands. We need a network that is for the people, of the people, and by the people. As long as you have the network in control of monopoly, their single job is to mine you completely. The reason they give you these big networks is not to ensure that India goes forward. It is for their businesses to become bigger and bigger. Let it be India or let it be outside company, it just does not matter. So but resisting that should be one of the biggest things. Whatever the regulation comes, the resisting that will be the biggest thing for we as citizens. For that, community network is a tool. And the citizen rights that comes into the context is data privacy. For that, again, having data controlled by the people is more important. Yeah.
Thanks. I'm not going to comment specifically on the act or anything like that, but maybe sprinkle some optimistic dust on everything. A lot of the stuff we are talking about here is not being talked about in a lot of places. And again, coming back to the community context, when people bathe, joint families, not joint family, but like, let's say a rural setup, many people will bathe with some clothes on inside the house or behind the house. So that's our context of privacy, right? So we're coming at this in a very different way. And I do want to sort of highlight the other discussions that are happening. Just a few days ago in Bangalore is one example, but just around us in India, we're talking about frameworks, right? Frameworks for trust, frameworks for consent. So I feel like wherever this act is, let's say, a first draft in some sense, right? Like there's going to be a lot of, obviously, people feeding back, people using networks saying, hey, this is not working out. It's not just some, let's say, a big corporation or something like that. Everyone here, uses a device. Everyone is somehow related to the tech sector. So I feel like these are the seeds. I think that's how we need to see it. This might be resolved in a few years. And I think definitely we're on the right track. It's just not as easy and plug and play as like a GDPR, right? Where the whole ecosystem is already ready. We know who does what. And now, honestly, even with GDPR, if you're giving the consumer all this data, what are they going to do with it? This is the next problem, right? So they actually have to reinvent that wheel also. So, but here I think we're starting at a very different starting point and asking the right kinds of questions, which is, not really, on this one piece of data, do I have a right to privacy or whatever, but what is the framework? If something goes wrong, where do I go? How do I hold people accountable? And say, I think that's where we really have to come at it, because again, community networks have come from community demands. We heard about right to information. There's a history of sort of asking for that access and then protecting or defending that access. So I think this is just part of that, continuum.
So can I add one more point that's very critical here, which I forgot, is that we are yet to see whether the Data Protection Act's the liabilities will be applicable on the data collected by the government and the process by the government, because we have our biometric, sensitive financial data, UPI, everything with the government now. And as so far, like till today, it's IT Act that we are under, in which data breach by the public authorities immoral and unethical, but not illegal. So, and if it happens by the private sector, then you have to prove there's a substantial harm that has been caused to you, and there are some compensation, which we have to see that how it is dealt in the rules of the data that is with the public sector authorities, or data, our data which has been given by the public sector authorities to the private authorities. So that is also a complicated question that is yet to be seen.
Coming to the second question of Abhishek, right? Okay. So I did an example right in front of you itself, right? Where I said, how many of you shared your password on Facebook, correct? So the whole thing starts with educating people. See, digital arrest, there's nothing like that, but who's aware of it? I can show you an example right now on my phone itself where a hacker has tried to send a digital arrest mail on my phone, right? Which is a government email ID, correct? You're absolutely right. It's a tool, whether it's a tool to protect it or to break it. That's what it is. For example, there is this, I forget the database of 15 lakh records. There was PassGen, a password generator using AI engine. Right? And I'm not talking about passwords like what we typically do, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, PASSWORD. I'm not talking about that. But genuine passwords, right? They were able to hack 60% in less than a minute, right? They were able to hack 70% in about 10 minutes, 80% in an hour, 90% in 12 hours, right? 95% in 24 hours. That was the thing that this engine was able to do, correct? So definitely it's there. I think it's education that is most important today. How do you make people aware that what are the risks? And talking about the act and the rules, I think an act is good, a policy is great, but it has to be implementable. If you give a 200 pages manual, right, it doesn't help anyone. Second thing is, consultation has to happen, and civil society is the only organization which will be able to come and consult, correct? So their voice has to be heard and included. IT Act was someone's imagination, some industry people gotten together, trade bodies like NASSCOM, for which I used to work earlier, got in, and that's how they came up with the IT Act. I think today, everyone has to play a role in it, correct? And that's what is important. We can avoid digital arrests, etc. And today, if you look at it, even the Prime Minister went on record to say that, look, there's nothing called digital arrest. And it is not, see, and one thing which I'd also like to point out, it is not the excluded, it's not the rural community that is being hacked right now, right? It is all educated people, city people, industrialists, and everyone else who are falling prey to this, correct? And that's what it is. And sometimes, of course, the aged population, of course, also gets attacked. But I think that's where, how safe is your data? Who is having access to your data? You go to a mall and someone walks up to you and say, sir, we are doing this thing. I'm from some XYZ resorts. Please fill in this and you will get a lucky draw coupon. What do? We fill it in and give it. You go to any office, anyone, private or government, when they say, please write your phone number over here, what do? You give your mobile number, right? You're willingly doing that. And that is where the whole thing starts. And that data is going to be sold, correct? So I think it's important for people to be aware of the consequences. If you give a knife to a small kid and you don't tell them what are the consequences of this knife, they can hurt themselves, correct? And that's exactly where we are in layman's terms.
But before all of this closes, I think this was extremely informative. So a big round of applause for all our panelists.